In the year 130 AD, in the murky waters of the Nile River, a young man named Antinous died. The official story was a tragic accident, a drowning. But the Roman world was buzzing with a darker, more sinister rumor, that the most powerful man on earth, Emperor Hadrian, had offered his young lover as a human sacrifice. What? To gain mystical power? To cure an illness? Or was it a twisted act of love and grief? This single event exposes the nerve of a hidden world at the heart of the Roman Empire. A world where the relationships between powerful men and teenage boys were not just scandalous affairs, but were embedded in the very fabric of politics, power, and education. This is a story the history books often gloss over. Tonight, we dive deep into the shadows of the Roman psyche. We'll uncover the shocking rules of this practice, meet the emperors who became slaves to their desires, and reveal how a single radical idea from a new religion turned this entire world upside down. This is Rome's darkest secret. To understand this, you must first erase your modern mind. The Romans had no concept of homosexuality or heterosexuality. These are modern identities. For a Roman man, his sexual identity was not about the gender of his partner, but about his power and dominance in the act. The entire Roman social and sexual universe was built on a simple, brutal binary. The active role, the penetrator. This was the position of power, control, and masculinity. It was associated with the conqueror, the statesman, the true Roman vir, man. The passive role, the penetrated. This was the position of submission, weakness, and femininity. It was associated with slaves, women, and defeated enemies. Here's the crucial part. A Roman man could have sex with other men without any loss to his masculinity, as long as he was always the one in the active, dominant role. The shame wasn't in the act itself, but in being submissive. This is why a Roman general could conquer a Gaulish warrior and then take him as a slave lover, and it was seen as an extension of his victory. The ultimate humiliation for a defeated enemy was often sexual. This mindset is the key that unlocks everything. The Romans didn't invent this system. They found a more refined version of it in Greece, a civilization they both conquered and deeply admired. The Greeks called it pederasty, from paiderastia, meaning the love of boys. But this wasn't just about sex. In its ideal form, it was a sacred social and educational institution. Think of it as an ancient Oxford or Harvard tutorial system, but with a deeply personal, physical component. Let's break down the roles. The erastes, the lover, the older man, usually aged 20 to 40. He was the mentor, the patron. His duty was to educate, protect, and guide. The eromenos, the beloved, the teenage boy, usually aged 16 to 20. His role was to be receptive, to learn, and to inspire with his beauty and potential. The exchange was clear. The older man offered knowledge, political connections, and a path to power. The younger boy offered admiration, beauty, and the honor of being chosen. His family often actively sought out a powerful heiress for their son, seeing it as a crucial career investment. Fascinating fact: the rules of the game. This wasn't a free-for-all. It had strict, if unwritten, rules. The chase. The heiress had to court the boy publicly, often with gifts and poetry, proving his honorable intentions. The modesty of the boy. The eromenos was supposed to be modest and resistant, not eager. His virtue was measured by his reluctance. Showing too much pleasure could ruin his reputation. The time limit. The relationship was meant to be temporary. It was supposed to end when the boy grew his first full beard and entered full manhood. At that point, he would transition from the eromenos to the erastes, marry a woman, and start the cycle again. In theory, it was a noble system. In the brutal reality of Roman politics, it became a weapon, a source of scandal, and a window into absolute decadence. 1. The scandal that almost broke Caesar. Early in his career, the young Julius Caesar was sent as an envoy to the court of King Nicomedes of Bithynia. When he returned to Rome, the rumors were flying. It was whispered that Caesar had not only been the passive partner to the older king but had done so willingly. His rivals, like the orator Cicero, never let him forget it. They called him Regina Bithyniae, the Queen of Bithynia. The soldier and politician Curio labeled him every woman's man and every man's woman. This was a career-threatening scandal. It wasn't that he was with a man, it was the allegation that he enjoyed being submissive. For a man aiming for the top, this was a direct attack on his essential Roman masculinity, a stain he worked his entire life to erase. 2. The philosophical ideal, Emperor Hadrian and Antinous. Now let's return to our opening story. Hadrian was a brilliant emperor, a builder, a traveler, a military strategist. But his heart belonged to a Greek youth, Antinous. This relationship broke the mold. It wasn't a dispassionate mentorship. It was a deep, public and consuming romantic obsession. Hadrian took Antinous everywhere, from the forests of Britain to the deserts of Egypt. Then came the mysterious death in the Nile. Hadrian's reaction was unprecedented. He didn't just mourn, he deified Antinous. He founded the city of Antinopolis where he died, commissioned thousands of statues, more than any other non-imperial figure, and declared Antinous a god. Was it a sacrifice? A suicide? An accident? We'll never know. But it shows how a structured practice could spiral into something far more powerful and dangerous. Genuine obsessive love. 3. The rule breaker. Nero's inverted world. If Hadrian blurred the lines, Emperor Nero took a sledgehammer to them. Nero's reign was a carnival of transgression. He famously castrated a slave boy named Sporus because he resembled his dead wife, Poppaea Sabina, and then married him in a public ceremony, with Sporus taking the male role. Even more shocking to the Romans, Nero himself took the passive role in a relationship with a freedman named Pythagoras. During their wedding, Nero wore the bridal veil. For the Roman elite, this was the ultimate perversion. The emperor, who was supposed to be the pinnacle of Roman virtus, manly virtue, was willingly, publicly making himself the bride. It was a symbolic inversion of the entire cosmic and social order. For the peak of decadence, Emperor Elagabalus. The most extreme example was the brief, chaotic reign of the teenage Emperor Elagabalus in the 3rd century AD. The historical accounts are lurid. He allegedly offered vast wealth to any doctor who could give him female genitalia. He was said to have prowled the baths and taverns at night, disguised as a woman, in search of men with large anatomy. He even supposedly married a man named Zodicus, a celebrated athlete from Smyrna, in a lavish public ceremony. While these stories from historians like Cassius Dio are likely exaggerated by his political enemies, they represent the ultimate Roman fear. A ruler who not only broke the rules of pederasty but who actively sought to erase the line between male and female, dominant and submissive. So, how did this deeply entrenched system, which had lasted for centuries, finally come to an end? The answer lies not in a Roman law, but in a religious revolution. For centuries, Roman sexual ethics were about social status and power. Christianity introduced a radical new concept. Sexual ethics were about morality and sin. The Christian God, as interpreted by the early church fathers, condemned all same-sex acts as contra naturam, against nature. It didn't matter if you were the active or passive partner, a master or a slave. The act itself was now the sin. This was a philosophical earthquake. The old Roman hierarchy of sexual roles was replaced by a simple, binary moral law. Sex was only for procreation within marriage between one man and one woman. The turning point came in the 4th century. First, Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity. Then, in 390 AD, Emperor Theodosius I issued the Edict of Thessalonica, making Christianity the state religion of the empire. Soon after, the first laws criminalizing homosexual acts were passed, prescribing public burning for the offenders. The forbidden education was not just over, it was now a capital crime. The entire framework of Roman sexuality had been dismantled and replaced, setting the stage for over a millennium of Western sexual morality. When we walk through the ruins of the Roman Forum or admire the perfection of a statue of Antinous, we are not just looking at ancient art. We are looking at the echoes of a world that is profoundly alien to us. The story of Roman pederasty is not a simple tale of good and evil. It is a complex, and to our eyes, deeply disturbing system that fused education, power, and desire. It shows us how a society can construct a reality where what we see as abuse was once seen as mentorship, and what we see as love was often a transaction of power. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How much of our own morality is truly universal, and how much is a product of our time? What practices do we engage in today that future generations will look back on with horror and disbelief? The Romans, in their brilliance and their brutality, hold up a dark mirror. They remind us that the human heart, when combined with absolute power, is capable of both creating breathtaking beauty and justifying profound darkness. The line between the two has always been terrifyingly thin. If this journey into the heart of Roman power has fascinated you, if you want us to uncover more uncomfortable truths from history, then help us build this community. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Let us know in the comments. Which other ancient customs or secret histories should we explore next? Thanks for watching. Remember, the past is never as simple as it seems.